Don't deny your emotions. Don't avoid your emotions. Don't suppress your emotions. Don't make them wrong. Don't share them. Start by identifying what they really are and then acknowledge and appreciate the message it has for you. Now, here's what I want to be able to have you do. I want you to be able to take the emotions that you're experiencing and be able to deal with them quickly. So I want to give you 6 steps to changing or dealing with, not dealing with, but I guess utilizing is the right word. 6 steps to utilizing any emotions you feel that you used to call negative, which now I call emotional messages, or calls to what? Calls to action. Whenever you're feeling a negative emotion, which we're now going to call emotional messages, it's a call to action, and it's saying you need to change something. What do you need to change? One of 2 things. Repeat back. What are they? Change either number 1, your what? No, well, you could change your physiology, but if you are getting feedback right now, you're getting a negative emotion, that negative emotion is a message. It's saying you got to change either your perception or your actions. And your actions could be the way you're using your body or your focus or whatever. But change your perception or your actions. Now, here's what happens when you get a negative emotion or now an emotional message. Number 1, you want to identify what the emotion is. So you're starting to feel negative things. You want to identify what is the emotion. Now, when you identify the emotion, what the emotion is, like you're really upset. Ask yourself, well, what am I really feeling? Underneath this, you might write down the question, what am I really feeling? What am I really feeling? So when you say, I'm upset, I'm going to say, what am I really feeling? And what might your answer be when you say, what am I really feeling? I'm upset with this person. What am I really feeling? I might be feeling hurt. Does that change how you feel in that moment as you identify that? Yes or no? Yes. And when you say, what am I really feeling? You might put a little note in your notes. Use some TV. Use some TV when you come up with your label. Transformational what? Vocabulary. So instead of saying, I'm destroyed, I'm devastated, I'm humiliated, you might say, I'm feeling a little bit hurt. Use TV and use what I call softeners. Softeners are the words like a little bit. So softeners and TV. Here's the second key. Once you've identified what it is, and by the way, usually it's going to be, I have a sense of hurt or a sense of loss. Almost all emotions will probably come down to that in most cases. Is that true? In most cases, not all. Second thing you do, acknowledge and appreciate the message it has for you. Don't deny your emotions. Don't avoid your emotions. Don't suppress your emotions. Don't make them wrong. Don't share them. Start by identifying what they really are and then acknowledge and appreciate the message it has for you. In other words, acknowledge, hey, this is a real emotion. I'm glad I'm having it. It's going to have a great message for me. Then go to step 3. Get incredibly curious. Get incredibly curious as to what it has to offer you, as to what the message is. Get incredibly curious as to what the message is. Underneath this one, number 3, as you get incredibly curious as to what the message is, write down the question. What is the real message this emotion is giving me? What is the real message this emotion is trying to give me? What is the real message this emotion is trying to give me? I'll offer you some ways to do this. Let's do all 6 though so you know where we're going. Step 4. Okay, the question on 3, some of you are still there. Question number 3 is, what is the message this emotion is trying to give me? What's the real message? Number 4, get yourself to feel reassured that you can deal with this emotion. Get yourself to feel reassured that you can deal with this emotion. See, a lot of times the stress is, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? So get yourself reassured you can deal with emotion. And the way you do that is, remember a time when you've dealt with this emotion successfully in the past. Remember a time when you've dealt with this emotion successfully in the past. So if all of a sudden you start to feel depressed, that's a pretty negative feeling. I, first of all, would not call it depression. I'd say a little bit down. But the first thing you do is you go, okay, I'm feeling this terrible feeling. I start to feel depressed. Well, what am I really feeling? Well, I'm really just feeling a little bit down. Okay, great. You know what? That's great. I appreciate it. That's a message. I need to get curious. What is that message? What's the message this thing's trying to give me? And what depression's message usually is, by the way, is you need to reset your priorities. That you don't feel like you're in control. That you got too many things going at once. You feel out of control when you're depressed. So what you have to do is set some priorities and go do the first one on your list. That's what the message is telling you. You feel out of control. The way to get in control, reset your priorities and go do one thing. and complete it. The minute you do, your self-esteem will go right back up. So that's a message. So what's the message it's offering me? And by the way, I'm going to teach you the 9 most powerful emotions that you probably experience, what their messages are. So you won't have to wonder about this. You'll know what they are. Step 4, get yourself to feel reassured by remembering times when you've dealt with this in the past. Have you ever felt a little bit down before, or what you used to call depressed? How many have ever felt that way in the past? Let me see your hands. How many have dealt with it? Let me see your hands. Great. If you remember that, 2 things happen. You're going to feel reassured you can deal with it, plus you're going to remember how you did it, which means you can use what you did in the past to change it right now. Why wait? Most of us forget the best parts of our past, which is how we dealt with things and turned them around. We just remember the negative feelings. That's kind of weird. Maybe we need to manage our memories better. Remember the things that have resources for us and forget the things that don't. Number 5, get certain. Get certain that you can handle anything like this in the future. Get certain. Not only can you deal with the emotion you have right now, but what you should do is use this as an opportunity to be certain for yourself. Get yourself certain. If it ever happens in the future, I'll handle this emotion quicker and easier. Get certain that you can handle anything like this in the future by rehearsing yourself dealing with it in the future. In other words, think of a time in the future where this depression could have come up and see yourself, feel yourself rehearsing again. Use this as a tool of empowerment. So you remember a time when you were depressed before, you were a little bit down, you turned it around. Took you a little while, but you turned it around. You remember what you did. Oh, I dealt with this before, I can deal with it again. And then you say, let me take this opportunity to get certain that I can handle this if it ever came up in the future. And the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to sit down right now, and I'm going to think of, okay, what kind of things might happen in the future? I might get depressed. Well, I might expect something didn't work, feel bad about it. Let me think of a time like that. Okay, let me see myself, hear myself, feel myself deal with it. You see, hear, and feel yourself dealing with it easily. And you do this 2, 3, or 4 times. If you keep doing it 2, 3, or 4 times, then in the future when it comes up, guess what your brain will do? Your brain will go, oh, I can handle this. I'm already prepared. How many are following the logic of this? Let me see your hands. Okay? So get certain you can deal with it in the future by rehearsing. And by the way, remember this. You might want to put this in your notes. Your brain cannot tell the difference between something you vividly imagine and something you actually experience. Your brain cannot tell the difference between something you vividly imagine, where you see it, you hear it, you feel it, you taste it, you touch it, you smell it in your mind, and something that actually occurs. If you doubt this, have you ever had a dream where it was so real you had every physical response to it? How many have had a dream like that? Okay, you can have a dream anytime you want, even while you're awake. All you have to do is rehearse something in your mind enough times, vividly enough, and it's real. If you over and over again rehearse yourself dealing with emotion easily, then it's real. Next time it comes up, you've already got the programming. You already have the resources to turn it around in a heartbeat. Then this emotional message, it's dealt with for the future, not just for today. And the 6th step, take action and change your life. Whatever the message is, take the action that you need to take and change your life. Do something. Doing something always will change how you feel. You feel bad because you're not doing anything. And by the way, you'll continue to feel bad until you do something to change. So if you do anything, it'll improve you and move you in the direction you want to go. So let's take another example. What's another negative emotion you feel? Let's hear an example of one you felt recently. Somebody raise your hand. Rejection. So what's the first step when you think you're feeling rejection? What's step number 1? Come on, guys, what is it? Identify it, specifically, identify what the emotion really is. Let's call it that. Identify what the emotion really is. Identify what the emotion really is. So you ask yourself, what am I really feeling? So a person said rejection. What were you really feeling? Shh, no, let him answer. That's your answer. His answer was disappointment. Is that different than rejection, yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, and by the way, when he realizes he's just disappointed, it's not as intense as rejection, is it? What happened with one question? His pain just dropped. Still painful probably, but not anywhere near as intense. Am I false or true on that? Okay, great. Now, so he's disappointed. Great, so now he knows when he realizes he's disappointed, he might even add some TV or a softener here. And the softener might be, he might say, I was a what? A little bit disappointed. Well, I'm a little bit disappointed. Okay, that makes it even less. Now what does he do? Number 2, does he make himself wrong for feeling that way? Yes or no? Yes or no? What does he do? He needs to acknowledge and what else? Appreciate the fact that he's getting a very valuable message. And it's a message he needs to change something. He needs to either change his perception about it so he's no longer disappointed, or he needs to change his actions so he doesn't be disappointed now or in the future. Step 3, what does he need to do? Get incredibly what? Like a little kid? What? Curious. When we're curious, do we learn things more? Do we learn better when we're curious? You bet. So he needs to get incredibly curious about what this message has to offer him. If you were really curious What do you think that message really had to offer you? Perhaps this was just an unmet expectation that was taking place up here and it wasn't even reality. What's happening to his level of emotional intensity right now? How many see that it's dropping? Can you see that? Okay, it's dropping right now. You go, great. Can you remember a time, next step is get himself what? What? Great. And the way to do that is get him to what? Remember a time when he's dealt with it. Have you ever been disappointed before and dealt with it? Can you remember a specific time? And you turned it around, made it good? Can you remember a specific one? Think for a moment of time when you turned around and you made it great. You actually took it, made it to your advantage. Remember a time like that? How'd that feel? So you know how to deal with this, don't you? Well, I got a question for you. What did you do back then that changed it? He redefined the terms he was going to use. He changed his perception or his rules. Great. How'd that feel when you resolved it? So great. So when he goes to reassure this, two things happen in the reassurance. One is he sees he can deal with it. He sees and feels he can deal with this easily. And number two, he sees how. And number three, he remembers how good it feels to relieve himself from the feeling. So he remembers how good it feels to get rid of it. Which, by the way, makes him want to get rid of it right now. And what's the last two steps? Step number 5. What do we want to make sure? We want to make sure he doesn't just not feel bad about it anymore now, but we want to make sure his future's better. We want to get him what? Get what? Certain that he can handle this in the future. So he probably feels pretty certain right now, but you know what I'd like you to do? I'd like you to think some other area in your life where possibly in life you could have gotten disappointed in the future. Some kind of thing that might come up. Can you think of something that could come up and do that? Look, he already knows. Close your eyes for a minute. And just for a moment, what I want you to do is I want you to think of that thing starting to happen when you start to get disappointed or feel rejected, actually, is what you did initially. Then you realize you're just disappointed, and then you just handle it. See yourself handling it in the future even better than you have in the past. And notice how good it feels the minute you handle it. Can you feel that? Think of another time, something else that could happen in the future, where it might have been a real major disappointment. But see yourself handling it real quickly, real easy, getting off and making it work, and notice how good you feel as soon as you handle it.
Got it.
Okay, do it one more time. Do 3. Do a third one. Some other area of your life where you're really disappointed. See and feel yourself handling that real easily, real quickly.
Got it.
Good. How do you feel about your ability to deal with this in the future?
More confident.
Yeah. How many can hear it in his voice? Can you hear that? Hear the depth in his voice. And the last thing is, go take action and change it. He may have already done that if it was changing a perception. Or you can go do it physically. How many follow the system?